Hello and welcome to Casual Learning. I'm your host, John Bannon. Today, I'm going to talk about chapter one of my new book, God and Our Superdeterministic Universe, the number one argument for the existence of God. Chapter one is entitled God. So the first question is, who is God? Uh, there is no known accepted definition for God. It's actually kind of strange that there isn't such a thing, but I'll give you a definition. God is the uncaused metaphysical cause of physical reality who decides what to make real and what not to make real out of the infinite logical possibilities for physical reality. So, in other words, God is the creator of physical reality from non existence, or in Latin, creatio ex nihilo. God is a brute fact foundational reality that is necessary for the creation of physical reality or the universe. Um, so, because there is such thing as the creation of physical reality, then that necessarily implies the existence of God. So, what is God not? God is not any sort of being comprised of parts, whether that's a head, arms, a torso, legs, any sort of body part. So, if you're dealing with a being with parts, made of parts, you know that that being can't be God. So, why is that? Well, let's take a being. So, we have a stick figure being here, and you notice the stick figure being is made of parts. It's got arms, it's got legs, it's got a head. So, the problem is when you have a being made of parts, the being doesn't exist without the parts, which means without the parts, there is no being. So the question then becomes, well, who created the parts? Whatever was responsible for creating the parts of the being has to be greater than the being itself. Therefore, the being cannot be the supreme creator being of the universe because it's not responsible for the creation of its own parts. Indeed, if it was responsible for creating its own parts, it would be an impossible being because it would have to exist prior to its own existence in order to create the parts necessary for its existence. That's something called causa sui, or self creation, and it's a logical impossibility and an incoherent state. Causa sui. So, because you can't be a causa sui, because that's illogical, doesn't make any sense, that means a God, the God, cannot be made of parts. Now, the idea that God is without parts is called the doctrine of divine simplicity. So, the creator of the universe cannot be comprised of parts. That creator or God must be without parts by necessity to avoid this logical impossibility. So, for example, is Zeus the head of the Greek pantheon God? No, because Zeus has parts. He has body parts. Can't be. the supreme creator of the universe or God. Um, is the universe itself God? No, can't be, because the universe is comprised of parts, many, many parts, an unbelievable number of parts. Can't be God. Is some sort of uh, space alien super being like Thanos from the Marvel cinematic movies God? No, of course not, because Thanos had body parts. Can't be God. So, in fact, any being that appears in space time must appear on the hyperplanes in the manifold of space time, which means that that being can't be greater than the hyperplanes on which it appears. And in fact, that being couldn't create those hyperplanes on which it appears, because again, that would be self creation or causa sui. That being would be creating itself because it appears on the hyperplanes. If it created those hyperplanes, then it's created itself. So any being that appears in space time in the universe can't be God. Can't be. Now, I'll talk about just one exception, which is, of course, Jesus. Jesus Christ appeared on Earth. Obviously, Jesus had body parts and appeared in the hyperplanes of space time. But Jesus is considered an incarnation, which means that was God made flesh on Earth. So it's God, the Creator God, specifically God the Son, but appearing in an incarnation on Earth, which is comprised of parts. So that's a special circumstance. It doesn't violate causa sui. It's just saying that Jesus on Earth was an incarnation, a special circumstance. God is without parts. You can't take a photograph of God because there's no parts on which light can reflect in order for your camera to record an appearance or an image of God. Okay, so why should we believe that God is real? Well, the reason is because there's good reason to believe that the creation of physical reality or the creation of the universe is real. And that creation would be creation from non existence or creatio ex nihilo. Um, so, why would we believe that creation is real? Why would we think that the universe had to be caused to exist from non existence as opposed to just simply always being there, always existing, not requiring any sort of creation? And the reason is because we are only aware of one universe that exists. And uh, famous physicist Roger Penrose calculated that the number of possible permutations of our one particular universe is 10 to the power of 10 to the 123rd. So there's only one universe, but there's that many possible permutations of our universe, none of which exist, or at least we have no proof that any of them exist. Well, that means that our universe had to be created from non existence in order to explain why it exists. And none of these others exist. So that implies the creation of physical reality, which implies the existence of God, the creator of physical reality. Now, because God doesn't have parts, this gives God a special quality. And I call that quality meta-determinism. And meta-determinism simply means beyond determinism. Now, um, if you're made of parts, then your actions can be the result of a causal chain of those parts. Because in order to have a causal chain or a deterministic causal chain, you need parts. But God doesn't have parts, so God cannot have causal chains. The qualities of God are not tethered to parts or to any causal chains caused by those parts, which frees God from the strictures of determinism or any sort of mechanism that can create random behavior. So, because of that, because God doesn't have parts, God is not deterministic and God is not indeterministic. So, this is a special quality of God. You can equate it with God's free will. Uh, Essentially, this also means that God is not subject to any sort of laws of physics. God is purely free. Okay, so um, when you understand God and you understand why we believe in God, you can come up with a superdeterministic argument for the existence of God. And that essentially goes like this. Superdeterminism proves that our universe is predetermined and that temporal causation or continuous causation in physics is not real. Now, this is based on Dr. Hansen's 2020 proof that the universe is predetermined and that temporal causation is not real. Next step, because temporal causation is not real, then a wave function or any unreal mathematical uh, quantum substratum could not cause the existence of the universe, and the universe cannot cause its own existence. All right, so because temporal causation is not real, then the wave function cannot be real either. Uh, that's because it can't cause physical reality to come into being because temporal causation or continuous causation in physics is not a real thing. So because the wave function doesn't cause anything to happen, then why would you believe it exists? And the universe can't cause itself because that's causes sui. The universe would have to exist prior to its own existence in order to cause its existence, which is illogical nonsense. So the third step is the astoundingly unlikely existence of our predetermined universe out of many possible predetermined universes that do not exist proves that our universe was created. Our universe had to be created, otherwise, all these other universes would have to exist. And we have no proof that any of these universes exist. And we probably will never have any proof that any of these universes exist because they would be beyond our universe and they would be inaccessible and unprovable to begin with. And finally, the creator of our predetermined universe must be supremely intelligent, knowing of and understanding the most advanced technologies and objects in the universe in order to predetermine those advanced technologies and objects into our universe. So, if you're going to create a universe, and it's going to include advanced technologies and objects, then in order to predetermine the existence of those advanced technologies and objects, the predeterminer would have to know of and understand those advanced technologies and objects in order to predetermine their existence. That means the predeterminer or the creator of physical reality would have to be, by definition, supremely intelligent. It would have to be more intelligent than the most intelligent advanced technologies, objects, and builders thereof that it will be predetermined to exist in the universe. That proves the existence of a supremely intelligent God, all based on the proof of superdeterminism by Dr. Hansen in 2020. I hope you enjoyed this brief review of Chapter 1. And next stop, Chapter 2, which is much more heady and difficult. And I might have to break that up into separate videos. All right, take care.